The sun had bled itself dry over the desert, turning the horizon the color of burnt copper. The wind blew low and mean through the sagebrush, carrying the scent of dust, sweat, and distance. Out there, far beyond the broken fence line of what used to be the McAllister Ranch, a lone man worked his way home. His name was Elias Boone, a cowboy turned drifter, a man who had lost too much to count and kept his heart buried deep beneath the dust. His horse stumbled through the dying light, and as Elias reached the half-broken gate of his shack, he saw them. Two figures, barely standing shadows leaning against each other like ghosts that had run out of road. They were Apache women, young but burned by the sun and exhaustion. Their faces were carved with the same pain he'd seen in men who'd lost whole towns to war. One of them tried to speak, her voice no louder than the rustle of dry grass. Elias dismounted slow, keeping his hands open, respect, not fear. The older of the two women held her sister close. "Water," she said, the word cracking in her throat. "Please." He didn't ask questions. He just nodded, guided them to the shack. Inside, the air was warm and smelled of cedar smoke. Elias poured water into a tin cup, watched their trembling hands clutch it like it was salvation. When he offered food, they ate in silence, every bite a battle. As the night fell hard, Elias looked at the single bed, the only soft thing left in that shack, and then back at the dirt floor. "Take it," he said quietly. "Ain't right for the wounded to sleep on wood." They protested in Apache tongue, voices soft and unsure, but he waved it off. "I'll take the chair," he said, throwing his coat over the backrest and sitting down by the dying fire. The wind outside howled through the cracks, and the old boards creaked with the weight of memory. Elias didn't sleep much that night. He could feel something stirring in the air, a storm that wasn't made of weather. When the dawn came, it came quiet. The desert was a ghost again, every color drained by the pale light. The two women were awake before him, already gathered near the door. The elder one, Tala, she said her name was, looked him straight in the eye, calm but fierce. "You helped us," she said. "That means something." Elias nodded, sipping his coffee slow. "Didn't do it for thanks. You'll need it," she replied. "They'll come." Those words hit like a stray bullet. Elias set the cup down. "Who's coming, Mom?" She didn't answer, not directly. Just looked toward the horizon. Out there, where the sun climbed, the sand began to shimmer with movement, faint at first, then clear as truth. Horses. Dozens of them. Warriors riding hard. Elias felt his gut tighten. He wasn't a fool. He knew Apache trackers when he saw them. But there was something else in her eyes, fear not for herself, but for him. "They'll think you took us," she said. "They'll think you did harm." He stood slow, the chair scraping the floor. "Then I'll stand with my hands open, same as last night. I ain't done no wrong." By the time the riders reached the ridge, the sky was burning gold. Elias stood outside, coat flapping in the wind, rifle left against the wall. The Apache war party came down like thunder, over 150 of them, their faces painted in silence. At the head rode Chief Iron Crow, a name known across the territories. His eyes were hard as flint when he stopped his horse before Elias. "You gave my daughters your bed," the chief said in English, his voice low and even. "And you slept by the fire." Elias nodded once. Didn't seem right, otherwise. The chief studied him for a long moment. Then he dismounted. What came next would decide whether Elias Boone saw another sunrise. Iron Crow walked slow toward the shack, his warriors holding still behind him like carved statues. Tala and her sister stepped out, their faces unreadable. The chief stopped between them and Elias. "A white man's mercy," he said softly. "I've seen it before. Usually costs blood." Elias didn't flinch. "Ain't mercy," he said. "It's decency." The old warrior's eyes narrowed. "Then prove it." Elias knew what that meant before the chief even raised his hand. The warriors stepped forward, surrounding him in a wide ring. No guns, no arrows, just the circle, the silence, and the waiting. It was the old Apache test, trial of the dust, a way to weigh a man's heart. They made Elias walk barefoot through fire, ash, and sand, made him stand as the desert wind whipped grit into his eyes. He didn't beg, didn't curse, didn't move. The women watched, fear hidden behind calm faces. Hours passed, the sun turning mean overhead. When the chief finally raised his hand again, Elias stood covered in dust, face cracked with sweat but unbroken. Iron Crow looked long at the man before him. "You could have sent them away," he said. "But you didn't? Why?" Elias shrugged faintly. "World's cruel enough. Didn't see need to add to it." A long silence followed. Then, slowly, the chief extended his hand. "Then you ride under my sky today, Elias Boone." The warriors murmured low, words of respect, not anger. The two women bowed their heads. The storm that had been brewing broke, not in violence but in understanding. That night, the Apache camp was alive with firelight. Elias sat among them, the drums beating low, the stars wide and endless above. Iron Crow shared meat and smoke, a sign of peace, but even as laughter grew in the circle, Elias felt that old ache return, the ache of men who know their place is not to stay. When dawn crept back again, he saddled his horse. Tala approached, quiet as sunrise. "You'll ride alone again?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Seems that's all I ever do." She pressed something into his hand, a small carved feather, smooth from being held too long. "So you're never truly alone," she said. Elias nodded once, tipped his hat, and turned his horse toward the horizon. Behind him, the camp faded into dust and memory. Ahead, the desert stretched wide and unforgiving, just as it always had. And as the sun climbed high and cruel once more, the story of the cowboy who offered his bed to two exhausted Apache women and faced 150 warriors without fear, rode on with him, whispered through the wind across the plains,